for the CMTC opener, and it was a fantastic show. It really was. Hindered by an accident, but by the sounds of it today, the update we got, it was really good sign. So I want to thank CKX for the support of this show, and let's bring on Hal Armstrong first, and introduce Hal Armstrong from Time Machines. You all know Hal Armstrong from Time Machines. How you doing, Hal?
Well, good, and great to be back on Snowmobiling Podcast, and great races this past weekend at Beausejour at the CPTC track, and we got Blaine back on. He's been with us 2 or 3 times now in the past, so great to catch up with him for everybody to see what's going on in the racing world.
For sure, yeah. Blaine didn't have a great weekend, but Blaine's gonna fix it all up for sure. So let's bring on Blaine. He's on there, and we can bring him in now and have a talk with Blaine. There he is. How you doing, Blaine?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Excellent.
We're doing great.
We've got Hal Armstrong on with us. So 2023-24 season has started, and I don't think it went as good as you wanted it to, considering you're last year's champ. What changes did you do this year to your sleds and your team? Anything you can tell us about?
Yeah. So for the most part, we're pretty similar. If anything, we're a little bit behind on some things, but yeah. So the champ that we were running is the same champ that we came out with. It actually raced in 2019 as a mod, and it's been the stock motor rules ever since, so nothing really new on that. We might be in the works of building a new one. We got a little bit of a track issue with a few, some of the 106s that may or may not be available. I'm not really sure where that stands, but so a new one might be in the works, but if not, obviously the sled that we've had for the last handful of years has been great, and I'm willing to continue to race it. It was fast when we got rolling after hole shots and stuff this past weekend, but the 600 is all new. We went to a 23 model, so it's got a few of the engine changes that the race department made, and otherwise it's kind of the same build as all the rest of the F3s that are out there, at least on a player standpoint. So it's a little bit better. We didn't go too far outside the box, but we still got some work to do, and you go to Eagle River and it's a whole different beast, and with how the track conditions have shaped up there for a lot of years, it's pretty unexpected. So we'll figure out kind of where to balance that with the 600 and hopefully come out firing in the next one.
Go ahead, Hal.
Yeah, so that's interesting, because I was thinking maybe every year, you and Tom got a brand new chassis, so that's something that I didn't know, and probably a lot of people didn't, because I did see, during the races, a few sleds that look similar to your past sleds. So is that something you guys do? You sell the older chassis to up and coming race teams?
I know Dave and Dermont, they've changed kind of how or what they've been doing as far as chassis wise the past, 10 years. I know it'd been a while since they'd built really anything new for anybody else. Mm-hmm. They had kind of a run of this I think there were only 4 or 5 chassis that are like what Tom is running. And I know they did end up selling a couple of those out to the Michigan guys. Yeah. But the chassis that I've been running, Tom and I run different chassis. The one that I'm running, they built that kind of a one-off during the 2019 season. That's like I said, we were in Beausejour the first weekend and just really kind of mopped up. Like our sled was really fast, and we got done and we get back to the trailer and Dermont goes, well, I think we're going to build another sled. And we were like, what? Did you just see what happened out there?
Yeah.
But no, this sled that they built was really good. And what they've done is they've been able to take their older chassis that they built, from the mid 2000s to 2015s, when they were still building quite a few chassis, and kind of give them an update, like you get like the sprint car guys and the modified dirt cars, all that kind of stuff. They all give updates on their chassis so that a guy doesn't have to shell out, how much ever it is for a brand new chassis. So they've been doing that to quite a few sleds, and that's why there's a lot of similarities in some of the chassis that we've got.
Okay. All right.
Did you get any prep at all done before going up to Beausejour?
We got a couple days of riding in Strathcona. Just Thursday, Friday before. It was pretty wet and sloppy, but there were a lot of guys up there. Probably half of the field was there when we were there.
Yeah, it was mild. It was mild the week going into Beausejour, which is great. I mean, considering the track they had, it was a fantastic track. But it must have scared them because it got pretty mild there the week going into it there, and I was a little nervous myself if they were gonna have it or not. But yeah, the track looked awesome.
So the track held up really well over the weekend, Blaine?
Yep, I didn't think we got to dirt until the last race of the day on Sunday. But I know they kept pushing it out, and I've been vocal in the past about, I don't like that. I'd rather we leave the opportunity for the driver to pick. If you're going to drive through the dirt, you're going to drive through the dirt. If you just gives us so much more opportunity to pass, and that definitely showed this weekend at Beausejour, and I know that they have to push it out, and it's in their best interest, but as long as you've only got a strip of dirt, we're not talking full corners, I think it just keeps the track racier. But we struggled to pass basically anybody all weekend. It was kind of a freight train deal, but it stinks when you get into those situations a bit.
Yeah.
They had quite a few grooming breaks, probably more than I've ever seen. That must have helped quite a bit because it looked like the snow. It was getting pretty chewed up for the snow. They had lots of ice, but they were plowing a lot to clear the ice. I suspect that helped quite a bit. That track is really wide. They can move a lot of territory there.
Yeah, they've got a lot of real estate, that's for sure. But they do a good job too of putting, getting the groomers out, and then they've got the big sweeper and a couple more, so they do a good job of keeping the show moving and getting it done too. So I've always appreciated that from them.
Yeah. The classes this year, the champ and the F3. What's your opinions of it this year? It looks like the F3 has grown more. I suspect. A lot of guys probably weren't ready yet. We're probably going to see a lot more, but they still had two really good, healthy classes there.
Yeah, I think, when you look at the F3 numbers, a couple of those teams announced that they were going to go to Beausejour, and then obviously everybody's going to be in Eagle River, and then probably Beausejour again. So when we get to like Wausau and in the east side, I think you'll see a fairly major drop in numbers on the 600 side. So we'll still probably have 7 or 8, but the champ side, we probably see, going to the Sprint World Cup in Wausau, I'm assuming we'll see near 30 again, if not more. I know Beausejour has a really good local following on the champ class, and that's really good to see. Obviously the strong numbers are encouraging, and just hope we get. And I know there are quite a few guys that are still planning to go out east this year that have not been, so that'll be exciting to get some big heavy hitters out east and race in Valcourt and stuff like that. It'll be fun.
Yeah. What's the Wausau track like?
It's a lot, smaller. They kind of got a D shape, but they've taken that out of it. Just kind of straighten out the straightaways and stuff, but pretty short. Banking is fairly mild. Good facility, great people that run it. We're always excited to go there. Good track.
Yeah, I guess the loss of Ironwood is a big disappointment this year.
Yeah, it is. It's just such an unfortunate circumstance, and everything that happened there, and then, the community is usually pretty good about it, about the race, and with the snowcross guys being there this weekend, they're still going to get their fix of racing. That's no doubt. They usually do have a couple snowcross races out that way.
Right.
So, but yeah, I know the promoter out there, he wants it bad. So hopefully we can figure something out and get our return out there next year.
Yeah. You dropped a question off on Facebook was it yesterday or this morning regarding the speeds of the classes. Do you want to kind of recap that?
Well, yeah, I threw that up on my site because I've just recently written a story on the evolution of the twin track Skidoo Formula One sleds, from the 80s and the 90s, and so I kind of picked Blaine's memory about his lap times at Eagle River, because I was kind of, those things were so amazing back in the day, and how would they compare to today's machines, right? And so yeah, when I was watching the races, I mean the speeds, I think 100 mile an hour, maybe that was plus or minus a couple percent, but that seemed to be the max. And I've gone to Beausejour for years and all the races, and that seems to be kind of where they've topped out at. And but the sleds are, for the most part, are all pretty competitive. So it's good racing, but it's just like, is that the limit of what we've seen, as far as the evolution of race sleds? And so now that I've just learned here is that I was always under the impression that Wall Brothers was building some latest and greatest new chassis every year, but that's not the case. So, and the engine's being limited to 440s, that's kind of really capped off the power. And what's the future of that class? Because it sounded like for so long that Champ was going to be kind of phased right out, and the future was going to be F3, and Champ seems to be making a big return, right? So I don't know what the deal is. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit.
Tell us, Blaine, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, and I feel like every time I talk about it, I get in trouble by somebody. So, I think you look at the pure numbers that Champ has behind it. It's how are we going to just eliminate that and expect racing to move on? That's silly. It's silly. I talked to I don't want to single anybody out, but I talked to Justin Peterson. We've talked years. 39X, great guy. He came up through racing F500 and then got on a pro light, and just he's working with Perry Earlrick out there in Wisconsin, and they're building pipes and all that kind of stuff, and just they've got all this horsepower, and he's really working to get better. He talked about his training a little bit this summer, all that kind of stuff. But him and I have talked for a couple of years now on the Skidoo guys seem to have more problem getting parts for the 440s than us Polaris guys. And I think, when you look at it, Tom and I were the only two guys with Polaris engines in both finals, I think, in Champ. Like that's it. And everybody else is running Rotax. And that could be one of the reasons why it's so tough to get parts for them. But, I think it would be an interesting feat or adventure to go look out on putting a 600 in a Champ. And I know even like the Walls, they don't really like that idea, because what we have right now is, as far as speed wise, like you say, 100 miles an hour, that's relatively safe. Stuff still comes at you really, really fast at 100 miles an hour, and safety is a big proponent of that decision to stick around 100 miles an hour. So, I kind of delved into that on Facebook as well, where when they were running 600s, I mean, they were wicked fast. You're talking, 110 plus on a half mile, and it would, something like that would go to the Sioux and make those guys look silly, just in the pure speed of what some of those are doing. And that's, our corner speed is so fast, and our chassis are so good that speed is achievable. So, it'd be, how do you put a 600 in there and then bring it back down to that level? And the 600 part would be purely because of parts availability and interest the manufacturers. I think you would go with some sort of rule that the hood must match. I think the Skidoo guys have a good hood as far as it looks like if you were to put a NASCAR out there next to a Camry, I mean, they're going to look, a Champ sled like that's going to look like what what the production sled is. And I think, on our side, we could probably, we should get a better one as far as making it look like a matrix and whatever. But that would be my channel that I would go down if I were, in any sort of position to do so.
Yeah.
So in essence, what do you like for the Champ and what do you like for the F3? You got two pretty close classes there. The speeds are really close.
Mm-hmm.
What would you? I mean, and they're two very high profile classes, very expensive classes. So it's tough for, I guess, racers to run both.
Yeah.
There's only a few that are running both. How can we help things by?
Yeah, I think. Is he still there?
Yeah, you look like you froze up there, Gord. But yeah, the 600 motor that's in the F3, Blaine, is it got any restrictions on it, or is it what are the rules around those engines?
So it's purely stock. It's like the exact same thing that snowcross guys have.
Yeah.
Where we can run a can.
Yeah.
So we take the silencer out and we put the one that Polaris gives us on there, and then and that's what we get. The modifications come from the chassis, and I know it started off as a thought that it wasn't going to be a lot of work, but they've turned out to be a lot of work.
So with that motor, could you take that engine and with that thing, I mean, it's going to have to be tweaked, but would that work in your Champ sled?
Oh, for sure. We could, we'd have to make motor mounts and stuff like that, but we could for sure get it to fit.
And then run the stock exhaust with the can, and then, be interesting, those for sure.
And remember
and then like you said, do change the body work so it looks like a matrix. They look like an MXZX, a Catalyst, whatever, just so people can more identify with them, right?
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of be an avenue to go.
Yeah, for sure. Gord, you back?
Yeah. So you didn't have much prep going up to Beaujeu. The problems that you did have, can you tell us about the problems you had? I mean, going from last year to where you almost dominated everything to this year where you had problems, it must have been pretty frustrating. You see, I got a big noof here right beside me. Hey, you picked the wrong time to come and visit me.
Yeah. We, like I said, we only had a couple days. The first day we just ran the 600 just because it's brand new out of the box. Got all the shakedowns done, and kind of just threw a few things at it, seeing what it would do. And then the Champ side, I was almost wide open lap one, so it wasn't much to get used to the old girl. But we've never really had a hole shot. Last year we hole shotted 2 races and we end up winning by a half a lap. So and that's just our struggle is hole shots. We have such a good sled and we got such a good package after that, but we're frustrated in that part on getting us somewhat close. But you look at the races that some of the other races that we won, whether Valcourt, we passed Gady to win that race. We had to pass basically anybody to win any of the races that we really had. So not having a hole shot, not being the first corner and being able to drive away is nothing new for us. But I think we were further back than we expected, and even on the drive home from Beaujeu, talked to Dustin for well over an hour on what direction do we go, what's the plan. And then yesterday on Monday, Dermott called and we had a conversation a little bit about both sleds, but getting to the test track and figuring out where we need to go, that's one of our going to be one of the main goals here.
Yeah, so you obviously had some great notes from last year. Did they not flow over to your sled this year?
No, not really. I mean, it was the same setup, freshened up engine, but we're really scratching our heads on it.
Clutching and everything's the same. Do you don't use that like the whole shot device, like where you can warm this, adjust the ignition to warm up the pipes like the snowcross sleds at the beginning of the race, do you?
Not on the Champ.
No.
We don't. No.
Okay. Yeah, probably doesn't have that technology. Yeah. Okay.
We actually we could run it, but on the Champs we run a real thin reed, and all the backfiring, they eat reeds real bad. Even on the 600s, like we got to check them a lot. But
yeah,
with that thinner reed, it eats them up, and there's a decent chance. So we just don't use it. We had one on our 2018 sled, so it's there, but we just don't use it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
we had lights this year for the first time at Beausejour. What'd you think of it? I thought the lights were awesome.
Oh, it was amazing.
Did you like them?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was really, really well lit up, really well presented. So, yeah, it was a home run.
Yeah. And it's Eagle River. You get the shadows and stuff like that. It's pretty dark. And I thought I was watching the race, and man, I said the whole oval was up so nice. I mean, kudos to the Beausejour people. They knocked it out of the park with those lights. I hope they pay off because they were good. And I don't know if you noticed that when they flipped the switch, the lights all came on like automatically, like all of them. Like normally you're waiting half an hour for that type of thing to, for them to warm up and light up and stuff like that. So yeah, kudos to the Beausejour people for putting that in. I think a really good show on Friday night would be for the March show. Have a nice 2-hour spectacular show of the Champ and the F3s going at it for a night show. Just kind of a 2-hour high energy race. I think would be awesome for the Friday night show in March. Yeah. What do you think?
It's just most of the F3 guys are running the Champ sled, so it's different than the old days, right? Where you had the Mike Cools and the Benders running the F3s and Jim Appleson, and then you had the F1 guys.
Yeah, it'd be tough that way, but yeah, I think Snowcross does such a good job of putting on a Friday, Saturday, and having a night show. Yeah. I think in the past, CPTC has really tried to do some sort of thing along those lines, especially on Friday night. And I'd be completely down for it again. You just don't like the nights when it gets Saturday and Sunday this year. You obviously with the big delay for John, and when we got back to racing, we didn't get out of there. We didn't get back to our cottage until 1:30. And I left early. My dad and them didn't get back until after 2, and then we got to be on the track at 9:00. So that's the thing that. If we could run a Friday, Saturday, and then nothing on Sunday, but I know Sunday is championship Sunday, so
a late start Sunday, and just wrap up the classes on Sunday. But yeah, if you're gonna run that late Saturday night, and no fault of them, I mean, it was unfortunate. Mm-hmm. And then a later start on Sunday would have been awesome, I think, kind of thing like that, because you're out there in Beausejour, you're kind of out there in the country.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we got Eagle River coming up next, with Ironwood with Ironwood being canceled. What's your prep going to be like going into Eagle?
Yeah, we'll hit it hot and heavy here soon. Just working normal day job. Got a few things to get through for year end, but after that we'll be at the test track quite a bit, and making sure our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, and make sure we bring the best package that we can.
Yeah. What are your conditions like down in where you are now? Are you able to get out in the lakes and stuff like that? I know Dermot and Dave, they're big into that.
Yeah. For us down here, I don't. It was warm. It's been warm. The forecast is warm, so I think it's going to be tough sledding down here for a bit. It's warm.
Yeah, you might have to come back a bit. We got a cold spell going up here now again.
Yeah.
So so you might want to make a trip up to Northern Ontario again, Manitoba, to to come up and do some more testing.
Yeah.
So
Does Beausejour allow that? Like, could you go up there and do testing or?
So I know in the past they've started to do that, and again, like the locals around Beausejour are
Hardcore.
really good at supporting. Yeah, I mean it's like some of the most hardcore, and you get the guys too, like around Greenbush and Roseau and Lancaster. There's like the mecca of oval racing is kind of up that direction. You get over towards Wisconsin, and those guys, you know, you get around Wausau, and there's a bunch of people that do it out there too. But last year, maybe even the year before, Beausejour really started to open that up for a lot of those locals that would go testing a lot. And I think it showed. Like there's a lot of guys up there that have a lot of good speed, and they can go to Wausau and qualify for finals and you know, be competitive. So, and that goes back to both CPTC supports not only those racers, but all of us racers. And then, you know, those guys especially are really supporting that track. And it's a good combination. You got a really good crew of people up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about you had a 106. What were we talking about then? You mentioned earlier.
Track size. So in most of the champs nowadays, guys are running 106-inch tracks.
So the 114 was popular one time, wasn't it? Or no?
116s, I believe.
116s.
Yeah.
So you've gone back to the shorter track.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So even like the supermods, a lot of them will run 106s.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's just for steering and a shorter wheelbase base kind of thing like this. Just must be quite nimble in the corners, like
less rotating mass too.
Yeah. Where do you get those tracks?
Yeah, might be tough now, was what I've heard, but yeah,
it's Camso building the tracks.
I don't believe they were. I think it was someone else.
Really?
But yeah, from what I've heard is, and I don't know, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm wrong, because I'd heard some mumblings up in Beausejour this weekend that there were some coming around, but I'm not sure. That's kind of what the situation is now. I know it's not a popular decision for us, but it is what it is.
Got to swap all your chassis out, your suspensions all out again, and for every track you got.
Mm-hmm.
They need to stick to one, and everybody needs to stick to one.
Yeah, nice. You think like for maybe the longer tracks, you'd run like the Beausejour track, the half mile, you'd maybe set your sled up to use the longer track, and then vice versa. But maybe just for the audience, maybe just explain like the construction of your track. Is it, you know, it's not going to be like your standard ripsaw type trail track. What is it? How are they made?
Yeah, the real very low profile, and you know, we have to run a lug, right? But I mean, it's the material is so light, you know, it just folds over so that we get as much traction as possible without, you know, and it meets the rules and all that kind of stuff too. But it's no secret, all of us run the same track, you know. And I know when we came into champ class, they tend to wipe out the outside wipers. So there's a lot of controversy on tracks and you know, not using one too long because then that outside lug is really showing a lot of studs, and you know, it just ended up to be a lot of hoop loss. But nowadays, it's, you know, tracks aren't really a big talking point, I believe.
Like how many picks would be on a champ sled?
Somewhere in the 300 range.
Wow.
Yeah, enough. You know, it's a balancing act between what'll keep you moving and not, you know, not too heavy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you could, you know, be head of the ISR, what would you like to change in the you're gonna love this question. What would you like to change in the champ and the F3? Putting you on the spot a little bit.
Good question.
Right. Let's merge them together. Let's make one class. If you know, we have to build so much on the 600s as far as what a chassis is. Let's, you know, those, if you could still run an F3, it would not be competitive, but you could still run an F3 in an open chassis class. But you know, 600s in a champ. I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for saying it, but that would be